Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next segment of the Investor Toolbelt series. I'm really glad you're here today, and we're going to dive into buy and hold real estate strategies today. Basically, how to build long-term wealth with real estate without trying to hit home runs every single time. This is the strategy I learned on the most. It's what got me started, and honestly, for where I am now, and it's what's given me the most peace of mind over the years. So I'm going to break down how it works, the different ways to do it, and give you some examples from my own journey, wins, mistakes, a little bit of both. So getting right into it, who even am I? I'm Cody Jurnell. Got into real estate back in 2017 after kind of stumbling around a little bit, figuring out what I was supposed to be doing with my life. I was a D1 athlete, went from some hard resets and eventually found my way into real estate, first as an agent and then as an investor. And now I'm run a vertically integrated firm that covers sales, property management, construction, and investing. Services mostly, but we put syndications, joint ventures together, things along those lines. That means we build our property management, construction, acquisitions, and investment services all under one roof. Mostly because I didn't want to rely on outside folks for critical parts of the process. And I feel like building it the way that an investor wants to build it is going to be beneficial for me and my company, as well as other investors that we hope to help out. So I've been a part of hundreds of deals, currently hold a little bit over 50 doors. But I want to be clear, this did not happen overnight. And I'm still learning, still make mistakes every day. And that's part of why I love this space. I'm not here to be your guru. I'm still learning every single day, but I've seen enough to know that buy and hold, if done right, can build real wealth and real peace of mind. So why buy and hold? Let's start with that. What is the why? Buy and hold is really about playing the long game. The replace your income with 5 rental properties motto is pretty much gone. I'm not sure if it ever really existed or if it was just a sales tactic. But here are the real reasons why buy and hold has been such a tried and true method for anybody trying to build lasting wealth. So the first thing is you're getting steady monthly cash flow every month, rent checks that cover your mortgage and expenses, and hopefully give you a few $100 at the end of the month in real net cash flow. That's after you use our real cash flow calculator that we've got in the group. You see, you've got to account for vacancy, you've got to account for repairs, you've got to account for capital expenditures, things like that. So real cash flow is, hopefully a couple $100 a month, not anything life changing, but stack that up over time and it's a big deal. You're also getting equity growth. Your tenants are paying down your mortgage for you, which builds equity over time. And if the property value doesn't jump immediately over time, it will appreciate as markets grow. Rents go up, values go up. It's not always immediate, but over 5, 10, 15 years, it's a really powerful compounding tool for your equity in a property. And maybe the most overlooked benefit is the tax side. Real estate has some crazy tax advantages. We're going to get into it in later slides, but most people don't even tap into them. And we'll talk about those here in just a little bit. So buy and hold versus fix and flip. This is probably the most common fork in the road for most new investors. Buy and hold or flip it. So I wanted to break it down for you a little bit. First thing is a timeline. Buy and hold is definitely a longer term play. You're holding it for years, not months. Flipping, on the other hand, is pretty fast paced. You're in and out in just a few months if all goes well. The returns with buy and hold, you get smaller, steady returns, like we mentioned, each month through cash flow and long-term equity growth. With a flip, it's a one-time paycheck, maybe 20K, maybe 50K, or potentially more if you did it right. But then it's over. You're back to square one, looking for the next deal, trying to line up work for your contractors, things along those lines. And then the risk, buy and hold tends to be a lot more stable. You can weather a lot of storms if the property cash flows. Flipping is a lot riskier in those regards. It's very dependent on the market staying strong, your rehab going well, and timing everything right, especially with being in a seller's market versus a buyer's market, which it seems like we're kind of flipping into right now. So a lot of flippers, including myself, start to feel a little bit of the pain when it comes to switching over to a buyer's market. So last but not least, the taxes. So flipping is taxed as ordinary income or short-term capital gains. If it takes you a little bit over a year, you'll hopefully be paying long-term capital gains, but at the same, regardless of either of those three, that is the worst kind of tax treatment that you can have in the real estate world. Buy and hold gives you depreciation and cost segregation opportunities, both of which lower your taxable income. And then lastly, the scalability. This is a huge factor. So you can build a portfolio of rentals with a good property manager and some good systems in place, which we like to think that we provide here at Haven Management Group. But when it comes to flips, it's really hard to flip 10 houses at a time unless you build out a full-blown construction company. Can't say you aren't able to do it, but it takes a lot longer to get there. And trust me, it's a lot more headache and just stress involved. So those are the main differences between buy and hold versus flip. It's all based on our last training. It's all based on what is your strategy, what fits your short-term goals. What are you trying to get to, or long-term? You might start and fix and flip, and then move over into buy and hold, or blend the two and go into the BRRRR strategy, which we'll also get into. So defining your strategy. Before you start buying anything, you've got to define your strategy. What's your game plan? Are you doing BRRRR deals? That means buying something that needs work, fixing it up, renting it out, refinancing it, then repeating the process. Do you want to do live and rent? Is this a house hack situation where you're buying a place, you're going to live in it for a little bit, maybe fix it up, gain some equity, and then turn around and make that a rental? That's how I got started. It's a great way to get in with a low down payment and kind of get a little bit better interest rate to be able to cash flow better down the road. And then another one is seller financing, which we'll also show an example of that. That's when you negotiate directly with the seller to make payments over time. It's a super powerful tactic or strategy when banks don't want to play ball, or you're just trying to get into a property with as little down as possible and execute on a plan. But then after you've defined your strategy, you've got to go out and find the deals. So you want to be using your network, whether that's our community, your sphere, or something else. You really need to be able to mine the deals, get referrals, and broaden the scope of the properties that are readily available on the market. A lot of times, once they go to the MLS, they're pretty much a dead deal. You're not making any cash flow on those. It can be found, but they're harder to find because you're in such more competitive a market. So we talked about finding deals. Really, the most daunting part of this: constantly scrolling Zillow, driving for dollars, working off market with wholesalers, things along those lines. You just have to stay active and be consistent with those things to really run those into your pipeline. And then after that, you're going to have to start making offers. This is where most people stall. Right now, we are in a buyer's market in a lot of places. So don't overthink it. Get offers out there, throw out some numbers, ask for seller financing, play your hand, and really just see what sticks. The more you do, the better. And then after all of that, it's time to make a move. You need to get your team ready that hopefully you've assembled up front, your lenders, your contractors, your property managers. Line up all of that early, not after you're under contract, because that's where really the execution plays in. That's where Haven can really set you apart from other investors in your area. Being part of this network, taking advantage of our services, you'll get deals done and you'll execute them well, which helps you build a track record and more confidence going into scaling a portfolio. So the types of buy and hold investments. Here are the main strategies under the buy and hold umbrella. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. As you can tell, I've left off multifamily. There's some other buy and hold strategies in commercial. Those are going to have their own trainings, and I didn't want to include those as we're really looking at your kind of standard single family buy and holds here. And so the traditional rental acquisition model. So these are turnkey, a lot of times turnkey or light reno properties. You need to get a tenant in there quickly, and it's hopefully low maintenance. You'll need a bigger down payment, but there's lower risk involved, and there's also lower return. Your interest rate will have a big impact here on whether you can actually cash flow the property or not. So you got to be familiar with your numbers, run it through the calculator, make sure that your actual real cash flow is positive after you've accounted for CapEx, vacancies, renovations, things along those lines. Tried and true, one of the best strategies out there, traditional rental acquisition, but you've got to get to a certain point where you can just buy turnkey properties. The next one is the BRRRR strategy, one of my favorites, tried and true as well. Harder to do in this market, but you can still find them out there, especially if you're comfortable with doing a little bit more construction than a lot of people are comfortable with. So the BRRRR strategy, you add value through the rehab and then refinance it to pull out most of your original cash. The goal here is to recycle your capital over and over again, maybe making a small profit, not as much as a flip, but you can make a small profit tax-free. It helps you moderate risk. It's got a higher return than just a turnkey rental property, but there's a lot more moving parts with the financing. You're going to have 2 closings. You got to make sure that you are very comfortable with your numbers. Again, we have a BRRRR calculator in the group, in the tool section, so take advantage of that if you haven't already. And then the third one that I've got pretty decent experience with is the seller financing model. And these deals often, involve little or no money down, especially if you're kind of solving a problem for the seller. A lot of times they're investors themselves, so they understand the model here. They see the tax advantages of doing it that way than taking a lump sum, but you've got to make a lot of phone calls, have a lot of conversations to move those conversations along. You might take over their mortgage or negotiate a note. You have lower capital out of pocket, but it can be a lot more complex. Kind of have to know the ins and outs of how to write up the note, balloon payments and things along those lines. But it's definitely doable, definitely a strong strategy to get started in buy and hold real estate. And then the last one is short-term rentals. We're not going to get too much into that. We probably have its own training on that as well. But here, think Airbnb, VRBO. They can cash flow very well if you buy them properly. Location is a huge factor. Amenities are a huge factor with the property, around the property. You know, what's around it. Is it near a body of water? Is it near an amusement park? Things along those lines play a big factor in what you're able to do. It's definitely not a passive strategy. By far, probably the most hands-on. But these can be a nice bridge when you really want to maximize your monthly income without selling a property, and you know, maybe have a vacation spot for yourself to use a couple times a year while breaking even or making some money throughout the other parts of the year. So now we're going to get into some case studies. These are actually properties that we have done ourselves or with a group. Most of these are kind of starter properties in the buy and hold space. Really wanted to kind of show you, you know, real life case studies of how things have worked. So this is one of the first buy and holds that I ever did. It was a townhome in Christiansburg, Virginia. I actually lived in it for a first year, so it was pretty much a house hack. We knew going into it, family's growing. This is a good opportunity. Let's buy it, make sure that the numbers work up front to be able to rent it down the road. And that's exactly what we did. So I actually lived in it, like I said, for the first year. I got a better term on the interest rate because it was owner occupied. It was a lower down payment. And then, like I said, we moved out after a year and a half and turned it into a rental. So I paid $235,000 for this one, put about $10,000 into it, just, you know, updating countertops and painting and stuff that my, you know, wife was pretty adamant about. She wanted done before we moved in. And now it rents for about $1,850 a month after all the expenses. Well, I should say it did rent for $1,850 a month after all expenses, which brought it to about $300 a month in true real cash flow after, you know, all the other stuff that we've mentioned before. So that might not sound like a lot, but, you know, that is $3,600 a year in our pocket. Plus it appreciated drastically over 5 years. Actually, it was up to $335,000. This says $310,000. That might have been what we netted. But the tenants helped pay down the mortgage over that time. And we eventually sold it for a big profit and rolled it into a multifamily property. So, you know, basically playing Monopoly. We bought this thing, we rented it out, we let it season, we sold it, we took those returns and we put it into a property that had 6 units. So we went from one house to, it was not a hotel, but, you know, smaller multifamily property, taking one door, turn it into 6. And that's the beauty of this. And again, we made sure that when we were going into it, we knew, hey, let's make sure that the numbers work to have it as a rental down the road. And we implemented the strategy and executed on that. So great property, great return, and it really got us more doors in the end. So the next one was a case study on a BRRRR deal. This was a single family home in Pearisburg, Virginia. We bought it for about $60,000. It needed a ton of work. So we came in, pretty much gut the place, spent about $65,000 fixing it up. And after that, we put a renter in there for $1,400 a month, went back and got it appraised at $200,000 a month and refinanced it. We pulled out the $160,000 and we walked away with about $35,000 in profit, tax-free, while still holding the property. And it rents for, like I said, $1,400 a month, and that's about $400 a month in cash flow now. And here's the key: it still cash flows after I pulled the money out. That's where BRRRRs are such a powerful tool when you do it right. You know, you get to hold the property again, let it season, let the tenants pay down that new mortgage. You got profit on top of the money you originally put into the deal back, and that profit is tax free. Whereas a flip, you would have gotten hit with short-term or long-term capital gains tax on those. So, you know, it's a tried and true method. You get to grow your portfolio with that. You get to get your money back. You get to go recycle it into another deal and grow your portfolio that way. And the beauty of this, which we're going to get into, is now that 100% depreciation is back, you can actually make even almost a double return on your money in tax savings. So we'll get into that when we get to the tax slide, but keep that in mind with the BRRRR strategy. So last case study was the owner finance case or deal. This one was in Pembroke, Virginia. It's a commercial property. There's actually 2 properties that were listed for sale at $130,000. The seller owner financed $110,000 of that at 5% over 25 years with a balloon payment at year 6. So that basically means he gave us a loan amortized over 25 years like you normally see it for $110,000 at 5% interest. After year 6, the payment comes due on that. So you have to go into it knowing, hey, I've got to implement a plan and a strategy to be able to refinance this thing out or sell it for a profit afterwards. So that gave us time to stabilize it. We got the rent up to about $1,500 a month and let the equity continue to grow. Only had to bring $20,000 to the table as a down payment, put another $10,000 into it, and then after next year, when the loan with a private lender comes due, because we've owned this for 5 years now, I will either refinance out of that loan and pull the money out like a BRRRR, like we just talked about, or sell it at a profit and use a 1031 exchange to try and roll those funds into another project, hopefully with more doors than what we're selling, because that's the game, the monopoly game. Buy one unit, buy 2 units, flip it into 12, something like that. That's where you really get your growth numbers and helps you scale that portfolio. And that's really the reason I love creative financing. It lets you get in cheap, gives you flexibility of what you're able to do. If you're willing to manage the deal well, you can really make a splash, and you don't have to go through the whole process with the bank and everything along those lines. Everybody comes out a winner, and it's a beautiful strategy. So this next slide, the tax benefits. This is something super important these days. And taxes are really where real estate gets really fun. My mom was a CPA growing up, but the tax thing always just went right over my head. My eyelids would crust over every time she started talking about taxes. But the more I've been in real estate, the more I wish I would have picked her brain when I was younger. I think I could have made a lot better returns on things that I'm doing, set myself up a lot better tax wise. But sometimes you live and you learn, and it's kind of where we are at this point. And I'm starting to implement some of the stuff now. And so one of the big things everybody always talks about, depreciation. Depreciation lets you write off the value of the property over time. I think it's for residential real estate, it's about 27 years, 27 and a half years, something like that. Even though it's probably going up in value, the pieces of the property, fixtures, systems, things like that, they do depreciate over time. You're going to have to spend money on them at some point. So the government, the IRS, lets you depreciate those and save the money through taxes with that depreciation schedule. You're also able to take mortgage interest and deduct that on your rentals. So you can write off the interest that you're paying every year on your loans for your properties against your taxes, which helps with cost savings and return numbers. We mentioned the 1031 exchange. This lets you sell a property and roll those gains into another one without paying capital gains taxes right away. This is a great strategy. A lot of wealthy people use this whenever they've had properties appreciate, especially over a long period of time, and they've got a big return or a big profit that's coming their way. They will find another like kind property, same price or more, like kind. So it's got to be another investment property, and they will take the funds or the returns and profit from that and roll it right into the purchase of a new property. So those gains do not get taxed, and now they've got a larger property, hopefully giving them even more returns and more depreciation. So capital gains, we mentioned that a little bit. Rates are lower for longer holds. So looking at, buying holds, it's a little bit of a tax strategy, just looking at capital gains taxes. But the biggest thing that's come into play here recently, cost segregation has been allowed for a long time. It allows you to accelerate your depreciation on certain parts of the property, like renovations, appliances, and other systems. But here recently, I think we were at 60, maybe 80% bonus depreciation. But now things have been pushed through where 100% depreciation is back. Cost segregation actually allows you to accelerate that depreciation on certain parts of the property, like renovations, your purchase price, appliances, other systems in the property. Instead of taking a 27-year schedule and depreciating it over that time, it allows you to take all of those and depreciate them in the first year that you own the property, after the property has gone into service. So I think before it was about 80% bonus depreciation. Now it's at 100% bonus depreciation, which means big write-offs in year one. Even on single family projects like the one that I showed you, the BRRRR that I showed you, putting $65,000 into it, you could see anywhere between a $20,000 to $40,000 direct tax write-off based on a cost segregation study. So if you pair that with something like the BRRRR strategy, you're making your money back, you're getting a small profit tax-free, and you're doing a cost seg analysis, and you're getting another $20,000 to $40,000 back. I mean, you're cooking with that. That's where really, you're playing the rich man's game, and you're making a lot of money, and you're not having to pay taxes for the most part to the IRS. So tax benefits of buy and hold are far and none the best benefit to holding property for a long time. Here's some of the things that we use day to day. We mentioned our BRRRR calculator. It's a simple spreadsheet that's in our tools section of the school group. Basically, just simple spreadsheet, but it forces us to look at the real numbers. What's our purchase price? What's our renovation cost? What was the down payment? What can we get for rent? What is our projected monthly payment as far as the debt service goes? taxes, insurance, any of those things that go into that factor. And then it looks at, okay, if we cashed out at 75% loan to value, this is what our payment's going to be. This is what we're bringing in. These are our expenses. Do we still cash flow positive? And if not, where, like, how much can we cash out to make this make sense? So it's a great tool if you're looking before you buy a property or you have a property that you're considering doing a BRRRR on. Definitely look into that. The real cash flow analyzer we've also mentioned. This helps filter out deals that look good but don't actually cash flow when you take all of the factors into account. I can't tell you how many times I talk to investors and they think it's a good rental because they know they can get $1,500 a month in rent, and their payment's going to be $1,000 a month. But what they're not accounting for is taxes, insurance, even like a 5% vacancy baked in there, the capital expenditures, which is money that you need to save up for the roof down the road. Renovations, things along those lines aren't factored into those numbers. So this calculator gives you the freedom to do that and peace of mind when you're going into buying a deal like that. We also have very, very sophisticated property management software. It's called Appfolio. If you're managing yourself, you probably need to look at something like Buildium or something smaller. But when you partner with us, we've got full, credit background checks. It handles maintenance requests. It pulls in work orders, things along those lines. We're able to pay our contractors through there. We're able to pay our owners through there. We do our walkthrough checklist quarterly through there. So it's a big system that we use to make all of our investors, all of our lives easier for managing properties. If you have one or two, you might not need something like that, but you eventually will. So as you scale your portfolio, keep that in mind. The other thing is financing partners. We have lenders that we trust. That's a crucial part to all of this. And contractors are the same. Contractors, vendors, everything. You have to have those people in place before you start having roof leaks and calls about the toilet getting fixed. Because if you don't have it in place, it's going to be on you. You're going to be the one waking up, going and trying to figure something out, and put those systems in place up front. And then lastly is just our network. I mean, probably the most important part of this, are the deals, contractors that we have access to, referrals through the group. It all flows through the people you surround yourself with. That's what the Haven Investor Network is for. And we built it with services so that our investors can focus on what they need to, which is go out, get deals, scale their portfolio, and let us handle the execution part of it. So recap on how to get started. If you're just getting started or even just looking to scale, this is your playbook. So the first thing you need to do is define your buy box, which is, obviously your price, area, type of property you're looking at, know what strategy you want to implement, and know what you're looking for so you don't chase everything and waste a bunch of time without getting anywhere. Next thing, you need to plug into the network. You need to ask questions. You need to analyze deals. You need to share what you're seeing. You need to, get in touch with people that have done it before. Try and find some mentors or people you can bounce questions or problems off of. Can't stress that part enough. I've joined a lot of masterminds, found a lot of people that have done what I was trying to do, and I, just bounce things off of them. I wasn't always, trying to sit down and have lunch with them. It would just be a text message. Hey, I'm dealing with this. What do you think? Just give them a very quick way to answer you, to give you a direction that you can run in now. And then the other thing is, you need to be analyzing probably at least 3 deals a week if you're serious about this. This builds the skill, whether you buy them or not, and it gives you the confidence to recognize a real opportunity and say no to the ones that you don't think are going to make sense. If you have a lot of hesitation about something and you're on the fence, a lot of times that's not a deal you want to fool with. The ones that get you excited and you almost, over show how excited you are about the deal, those are the ones you probably want to try and explore a little bit further. Next thing you got to do is start making offers. Don't wait for the perfect offer. Like I said, we're going into a buyer's market right now, so it's worth throwing offers out there. Imperfect action beats overanalyzing every single day. You want to line up your financing partners early, build relationships now, not after you need them. It's probably the most important piece of all this is making sure that you have the capital and you've got the financing in place. And if the deal's good, but you're light on cash or experience, try and find somebody to partner with. That's what the group's here for. We've gone through it the last 8 to 10 years, and we've built up a little nest egg of investment capital. We've also got private lenders that we work with. If you're not able to get bank financing right away, partner with one of us, go to some of these lenders that we use and get a deal done. The biggest thing is just getting started. That's what I always preach. Get started, get your first deal under your belt. It's not as scary as you think it is. And just let it snowball from there. It will snowball if you're serious about this, I promise. So lastly, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully it gives you a clear view of how buy and hold really works, whether you're just getting started or you're trying to scale up. I'd love to hear any questions you guys have. If you've got a deal you're working on, I want feedback, send it to me. If you want your workshop a little bit, and we'll give you the next step. Let's talk. plug into the network, get into school, watch some modules, find some deals, and let's get you going.